How are you?
Jordan, I'm so happy to be right in front of you right
I
now.
know this is such a long time coming. I'm so excited to finally chat with you.
Same here. Cool sweatshirt.
Oh, thank you. It's I got this at a antique store, and it's
Ah,
like the Keith Haring drawings, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I looked him up because I was like, I've seen those drawings before, and he was like this really cool
yeah.
New York artist, and was like this big advocate for the LGBT community, and passed away during the AIDS crisis. And I looked this up on eBay, and I got an
Oh, wow.
original painting of his. So now I'm like a huge Keith Haring fan. So I figured I'd wear that to match my new little painting there.
I love
Um,
that. So many treasures you can find in a thrift store, a vintage store.
I know I get in trouble in those
You do.
places. Um, but I'm so excited to do this. There's so much that I want to talk about, and that I was going through and like watching old interviews that you've done and reading interviews, and there's so much I want to touch on. But I want to start. So you were born in Canada, right?
I was born and raised in Canada. Yes.
Okay, I'm curious. This is kind of like separate from talking about your limp, but I'm just curious,
Yeah.
as someone like with all of the tension between our governments right now, and the crazy theory, or the crazy proposition that Canada would become the 51st state, all this like silly stuff that's being put out there. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious, as a native Canadian, like, do you have your finger on the pulse of like how Canadians are feeling about everything and like responding to all of this stuff? Like, what's kind of the vibe like right now?
I think it's really hard for me to say. I think I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but my assumption is that this is not of interest for most Canadians. However, I have heard rumblings of like the perks that this could offer, and but for the majority, I'm hearing like it's not something that people really are interested in. I'm not. I think we all thought it was a joke at first, and then it started to get more serious. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are perplexed and a little concerned, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I was just talking to my wife last night about how it's really like jarring how every single day, and not just every day, sometimes like 3 or 4 times a day, there's a
Mm,
new major thing that's said or done, that like all of your focus goes to that, and then 12 hours later there's something else, and then
I know.
a week later you've forgotten the crazy things that happened the week before, and it's like it's just never ending.
Yeah, and
um
you're just trying to like do your laundry. By the way, like do your laundry and like feed yourself, and like the just
yeah.
family things that come up, and it's a bit of insanity right now. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's wild. But anyway, back to Canada. Did you grow up there, or like at what point did you move to the States?
Yeah, so my parents are born and raised in Italy, so then they moved to Canada, and I was the firstborn generation in Canada. But I had no family who were in the industry whatsoever. Like all of my aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody was just um trying to make a living, I think, in the new country, learning a new language, trying to maintain community and like grow, and not they were kind of seen, I think a lot of the Italian community back then in the 50s and maybe 60s were like kind of a nuisance, kind of seen as a nuisance. So
Hmm.
I think they really worked as a community to try and build the city literally with infrastructure, and sort of prove that like they are here not to just occupy space but really um, to like contribute. And so there's this work ethic mentality, I think, that runs in like my history, family history. But so I loved acting and I loved creativity from the get go. But my parents really wanted me to go to school for sciences because I was really a good student as well. And they came from pure poverty, like pure poverty. My mom's toys were rocks when she was a little
Yeah,
girl. And coming out of World War II and all of that, which I find so fascinating. But um, but they obviously knew I had a talent, but it was just sort of like I applied to universities for sciences program for kinesiology, and I got in with a full scholarship. But as I teetered toward that deadline of acceptance, I just was like imagining my future. You know, and you just imagine, like, you play it forward. You're like, this is a difficult decision. You play it forward. What would life look like?
Yeah.
And it just felt like my whole body was flushed with misery. Like, I just thought, like, my existence will be, that's not for me. And so I had a lot of fights, like literally like dramatic teenage fights with tears and everything with my mom to just get her to get on board with me going to school for some kind of arts program. And I ended up going to school for a musical theater, and they're of course so proud and all of that. But I ended up applying for a green card in the US through, it's called extraordinary ability. You can apply either through marrying someone or through what's called extraordinary ability. And you put together this like pitch package that is insane. It was just with like referrals and proof that like you're doing well in your country, you're doing well in Canada, and if you come to the US, you have value to offer. They will benefit from having you in the country. It's very intense. I think I was like 25, and my basement, I just like it was like FBI agent gone rogue, like with all stuff pasted on the walls and my trophies from years of competitive dancing, and like I was just accumulating every bit I could, and then I got it, and I moved
Wow.
to LA.
I'm curious. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are actors or artists who came from immigrant parents that
Yeah.
had a very similar trajectory of like, my
Yeah.
parents wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I'm like, hey, I want to go do this instead. And that it was a thing where, for their parents, they just wanted the best for that. That's why they came to another country to like give them a better life that they didn't have. And the idea of their child going into such an unpredictable and difficult industry, as like the entertainment world. That's, I'm sure, a scary thought for a parent, especially from that background. But was there a moment for you where your parents, like, where you could see them kind of like take a sigh of relief and be like, okay, she's good? Like, where they kind of were able to let go a little bit and trust you on your own journey? Was there like a specific moment that you remember?
I mean, I think the period of time that really eased their mind was when I was in school for musical theater. I was being recognized within my program with scholarships and like great roles in our productions just within the school. And so I think they were just like, okay, if this is like a trial run, this is not the real world, she's doing okay. But they also just know me, and I am, headstrong, but I'm also very passionate. If I decide on something, I'm going to give it everything I have. So I don't think they were ever really, really deeply worried after I made the decision to go to that school. And they were always very proud of me. It was just like that tipping point where they had to take a leap of faith with me. And then once they did it, they were like all in. And even when I graduated, like I graduated early with this great gig in a feature film, and then I was out of work immediately after that. And I think there was like one mention of like, maybe you should come work for the family business. And that was the first and last time that came up.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah.
I had a similar experience where I went to college, a fine arts school. I did a feature film right after and was like, sweet, that like it was a little thing in Texas. And then I moved back out to LA full time, thinking that just a natural trajectory, I'm going to get my next feature once I move out there. And then I'll get like a recurring role on a show and all this stuff. But it was just nothing for like 5 years.
Ah,
And when I did move home, I worked at the acting school I graduated from for a bit. And then I went and worked at my dad's law firm. And that it was one of those things, like you said, trying to look ahead into the future and
yeah.
imagine, where you'll be, especially like if you stay where you are, what will that quality of life be? And there were like most days I would either cry going to work or driving home
Oh,
from work, because I
oh,
was just like, as the creative side of me was just starving and
yeah,
was desperate to, to get out of, like, I felt like I was stuck.
yeah.
And was there a moment for you where, you booked your first feature and then there was like a dry spell? Um, and I think for actors, there's always a little bit of that kind of like holding your breath or like waiting for the next thing.
Totally.
And, there are really busy spells and then dry spells, but like, was there a moment for you where you were able to kind of um, let go a little bit too and not worry as much or feel kind of like settle into like I think for me at least, how am I trying to word this? I think for me, for so long, I would tie my self-worth to my achievements and to
Preach.
my accomplishments. And I'm an Enneagram 3, I discovered recently. Uh, and I that's something I've had to unlearn. So now when there are the dry spells, when there are the failures or whatever, it doesn't hurt as bad because that's not where I find my value. At least I'm making an effort not to. So for you, did you ever struggle with any of that?
You're so wonderful. Like, are you even aware of the wonder of you? Like, you're so
I feel
wonderful.
the same way about you. So
Oh
thank
my
you.
gosh. Well, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing. I relate so deeply to all of that. I almost feel like my mouth can't like articulate all the things in my brain. Um, just because, wow, I relate so deeply. Okay, so this answer is not efficient and concise, but yes, I do have one. So, and it relates back to your story about your mom, where you really just wanted, you really just needed what was happening to you and what was affecting you to be like permissibly real and not something that you're making up or exaggerating. Like it's your reality. And I think our parents just do everything they can. And sometimes I think about like where I'm at in my life, and my mom had like 3 kids at this point.
Yeah.
I just and a full career and like stuff happening at home and like it's just as I get older, I just see my parents more and more as like my dad was just like a dude, like a guy, like just
Yeah.
trying to like look pretty good and find a date at some point and like hold down a job and like God, then he's got these kids, they're all girls. Like, what does he even do with all these girls? Like, they're just people. But I remember, so you were talking about your literal limp and then the emotional effects of that moment. And for me, I had developed this eating disorder. And at first it wasn't a big deal because no one could see it on my body because it was just more of a relationship with food that was soothing and was a survival tool. For me, that's how I view it now. I'm so grateful for it all these years later. But it eventually developed into bulimia. And when I told my mom about it, I think the adults in my life, their initial reaction was like to downplay the severity of something.
Hmm.
But I just knew for myself I needed help so badly. And I was so high functioning, kind of like you, like nothing like it might slow you down or you might get you in a pit, but you have this resilient spirit and you would find your way out and you would find this way around or you would find a success. And I think, similar. And people around me couldn't see my eating disorder, right?
Yeah.
Um, I looked very healthy. I was quite bright in my eyes and in my spirit and in my way of moving through the world. But this eating disorder came as a survival tool. I felt unsafe in my world. Um, I felt out of control. I felt like I didn't know how to meet expectations of all these people, adults in my life. I was a competitive dancer, so many things going on. The eating disorder helped me. Um, and I was just like, so there's this eating disorder that's there to save my butt, basically help me to survive. There was bullying happening, so many things. And this eating disorder came and solved so many things. It numbed me out, helped me to dissociate. It helped me to focus on something. I'm really good when I have a focus. Um,
It
and
created
then I felt like
some form of like structure.
structure, something to like calculate, like,
Hmm.
okay, like if a disordered behavior happens today, then I don't have to engage again in a week. So I have it's little calculations that would happen. Um, and then and then then there was Romina that was like this complicated being inside of me that I could never fully tap into because this behavior was here to help me survive, but that meant it was like blocking like my true self from coming out. So I would book acting roles or like I would win big dance competitions and I was very determined and And I was getting help. Like once I had a full-fledged eating disorder, I was getting help for myself. I think I'd only told my sister at one point, and I secretly went to counseling because, again, like my parents' mentality wasn't one that would embrace therapy and that kind of thing. It seemed like, well, if you're going to therapy, something's really wrong.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, something's really wrong, you know? But one modality led to the next, and the next therapist, the next way, like type of therapy. I don't know if you have like experience with different modalities of therapy.
Yeah, it was EMDR therapy that I did this morning, so it's been mind blowing.
I've been there. I've
Yeah,
been there. It's so mind blowing.
it's real. I'm curious with you what your experience it was like with that because it's for me the first one I did was I've only done like 3 or 4 sessions now, but the first one was very abstract. Like it was my first experience being bullied in high school, but then it turned into like this visual of me in this sea of students, but it was like moving like a literal sea, and I could only see like their backpacks, and I was sinking into the sea of like bodies and
Wow.
reaching for someone, and no one was taking my hand. Like really like abstract, like cinematic visuals. I guess like as an actor, that's kind of always at the forefront. But yeah, what has your experience been like with EMDR? Because it's been like mind blowing for me so far.
That is so interesting to hear that the way it like flashed, the way it surfaced for you. I mean, it's so interesting that we're all so like unique in that way. I think for me, it was like I had to go back and relive literal experiences that were traumatic,
Hmm.
one at a time, and relive it with a new story where it would resolve. I would be there for myself, or like other parts of me would be there for me, or like other supportive figures would come in, like right, the
Yeah,
therapist would guide other supportive figures to come in and help me resolve this, so that so that okay. So what I learned, which is so crazy, is like when there's an incredible trauma, our beautiful brains will sort of like package the trauma and then push it to one part of the brain, and so I'm living in a dissociated state. Like I don't that memory is not present for me all the time because I can't deal. So my brain is like, no problem, Ro. We're just going to put it back here. But then things would happen in my day-to-day life that would startle it. And I would have these reactions. And it just felt like, what is wrong with me?
yeah,
And so even though I was getting like CBT therapy, or I had this amazing group therapy that really, really helped me. And I think everyone should try modality after modality. If one is not helping, cool. Don't worry. Just try another. So many.
yeah,
But then I got recovery once I had a group, like a community of support, with other people who had eating disorders, who, by the way, every single walk of life. There were like ex-alcoholics who then moved into eating disorder category and came in, or like people who weren't sure, but they had a weird relationship with food or with control or with, um, but once I had like a stable recovery where there was no behavior of the disorder anymore, that's when I had this like my conscious, like my subconscious mind gave permission to my conscious mind for this old stuff to come up. And then it was there, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is insane." So then I shared it with someone, and they were like, "Have you heard of EMDR? Like, it sounds like you have PTSD."
yeah,
So I went, and I had one therapist who did EMDR that was eye movement, eye
yeah.
movement stimulus. And that was incredible, and it was exhausting. Like, thank you for being here with me now after you had that, because I know how much it can take out of a person. Honestly, it's
Sure, yeah.
wild.
No, it is. It's physically I did a 2 hour session a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't know how often I can do those because I was drained the rest of the day.
Yep.
I love what you said though about like the having supportive figures come in to help resolve it because for that one it got really abstract, but then eventually she led me back to that where she's like, now imagine your wife, your kids, your castmates, your current friends coming into the school to find 14-year-old Jordan. And as soon as I like heard that, because I've always had a weird relationship with crying too,
Mhm.
where on my dad's side, he like would tell me not to cry and to dry it up. It was very authoritative. And then my mom, it's like, oh, don't cry. Everything's okay. There's nothing to cry about.
Mm.
Like where it was like a positive version of it. But either way, I was told not to cry. And I there's that's kind of been this block for me, or this hurdle, that when I do allow myself to get vulnerable and cry, then I second guess it. And I'm like, am I crying because it's expected of me in this moment? Or should I stop crying because someone's going to judge me or whatever it is? But that was the first time in therapy where, as soon as I pictured my loved ones now coming in to find my 14-year-old self, I just lost it. And it was like the most cathartic experience ever. And yeah, it's so wild what you can, it's almost like you're being hypnotized, like but you're fully conscious the whole time. It's really wild.
It's really funny you talk about a weird relationship with crying because I had one too. Even though I was an actor, and
Yeah.
it was like in my life, it was, I don't know how to describe it. It was almost like I froze if and people around me would be emotional about something and I'd be like, "Oh my god, something is wrong with me. Like why?" Or, it was a weird relationship with crying. And then in the recovery, in getting healthier, in resolving so many of these things, that's when I feel like this part of me that was is my true my true self, like my like unapologetic self
Hmm.
could emerge into my work,
Yeah.
and I could start getting in touch with whatever uncomfortable, dark, sad, ironic, perverse, whatever situation this character human was going through. I had this like trust within myself to start being that unapologetically. And I think that when we do things to block our like true selves, it's like we're embarrassed of a sibling. Like it's the embarrassing sibling. Like, oh my God, just shut up.
Yeah.
But it's like, did you ever realize like that's the sibling that will stand up for you when someone's like picking on you? That's the sibling that's gonna show up, and like when you had a weird situation, they're not gonna judge you, they're gonna get you, they're gonna
Yeah.
it's like this dark part of me that I love so much now.
Yeah. I love it too. I mean, those are my favorite people to be around, and I would feel that too. I'd watch like a friend, or who was it? It was I was listening to a podcast. I think it was Ewan McGregor or someone was talking about that they're at this age now where they'll, be at a concert with a group of friends and they'll just be moved and start like weeping. And I'm like, oh, I'm so envious of that. Like, I want to be able to do that. And I'm slowly starting to be more comfortable doing. I think a lot of it comes with finding your community and your circle, your people that like make you feel seen and valued as you are, where you're not having to kind of put anything on.
Yeah.
That's helped me a lot. But it's yeah, it's such an interesting journey because acting as well, it was scary. Like if there were moments in acting class or in an audition where sometimes I'd cry and it would be really like spontaneous and exciting and um, therapeutic because it's like, in a controlled space, and I'm not going to be, there's not as much fear of like being judged for crying whenever you're doing like a sad scene. Um, and that would happen sometimes, but I couldn't control it really. There were a lot of times where I wasn't able to cry. And now there was like this moment for me that clicked. It was in the second season of The Chosen. I had this scene where my character, like, it's the first line of the scene, and I start to say this line, and halfway through the line, I have to break down and start crying. So I don't have like a build up in the scene to get there. I just have to start the line without crying, and then half of the sentence in, I have to start crying. But I ended up doing it, and it was because I was there. I looked at my castmates who I was really forming these like really close bonds to, and felt safe with them. And I just went up to each of them and hugged them all before the scene. And then once I sat down, it just happened. And then from that moment on, there was like this switch that, at least on a set or in a scene, I kind of like had this confidence of, okay, I know what I need to do to get there. And it wasn't there was no shame associated with it anymore or embarrassment. But then it took a few years later to kind of get to that same place in my personal life too, because on a set it was different, where it was like, this is part of my job. I'm supposed to cry, so I'm going to cry. Like I know the mechanics of it now. But then I had to figure out like the emotional blocks of why in my personal life it was hard to cry. Even in front of my wife, there were times where it's like I would find myself, we'd be watching a sad movie, and if I'm by myself, I'll sob in the movie theater. But with my wife, even, or my kids, I'd find myself like trying not to, and I'm like, why am I doing like? I don't care if they see me cry, but subconsciously there's
Oh
something
yeah.
there. So yeah, it's so crazy what you can
Yeah.
unlock. So go to therapy, everyone. Um,
Yeah. And also yeah, I think growing up, even though you're so like sensitive and aware and like current and not in any way stuck in any kind of like societal norms role thing, like it's so not you, you know. But can we help it? Like can we
yeah,
help it? Right? As a man, like can you really help the subconscious stuff that's going to seep in over the years? Like I mean, I relate to my husband. He's so sensitive, he's so emotionally intelligent, and he's so supportive. He's just like, but I've only got seen him cry a few times, and we've seen a lot. Death of
mhm,
parents and important things have gone down. I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
It's weird. Like because that's the thing. I heard this podcast, um, secondhand therapy is what it's called, and it's these two guys that are like about our age, and they are just best friends and roommates, and they sit down and talk to each other about their latest therapy sessions, and it's really sweet. And they'll talk about like one of them said something to the other one, about how his therapist, said that he has a problem with or he has a problem with emotions, and he was like, "No, I don't. I'm super open. Like I talk. That's why we have the podcast. I talk about emotions all the time." And his friend was like, "I love it when you lie to me and your therapist." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Yeah, you talk about your emotions, but," he was like, "you have a huge problem expressing them." And I realized that was something I have, where I have never felt ashamed of like, "Oh yeah, I felt sad or insecure," or like, saying all of that. But when it, even like a positive thing, getting a gift or a compliment, I'm awful at. Like I have no idea how to respond. I get really I just have to turn it around on the person and be like, "No, you're amazing." And I'm not sure how to respond. I think because it was so hammered in at a young age that I'm responsible for like how other people around me are feeling, and it's, I have the power to like make them happy. And if you avoid a certain subject or if you say a certain thing, then everyone will be happy, everyone will be okay. Like you have to be the peacekeeper. And I think that really made it caused this like identity crisis in myself, where it's like, well, what do I want, what do I feel? So yeah, it's been fun to like unlock, though. Every time I have a new revelation, it's like such an exciting thing. Um, I want to ask, speaking of compliments, though, that's kind of a good segue. I don't know how you are with receiving them, but I'm going to give you one right now.
okay.
So my introduction to you was I like movies, and which I love movies, and I like movies. And I was so blown away by your performance in it, the nuance, all of the layers. I related so much to that feeling of like, kind of like we talked about, being stuck, unrealized dreams, tying your self worth to your accomplishments, or to your trauma. I've had this another realization I had recently was like, do people only care about me when I'm in the hospital, or or because of my disabilities, like things like that. Um, so it's like all those things. I really like it hit so close home, and you played it all so authentically, and it was so vulnerable and real and raw. And watching it, I had the only other time I can remember in recent memory this happening with an actor was watching Jessica Chastain in Take Shelter.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, who is this person?
Oh my god.
I'm blown away. I'm like, as soon as I saw that movie, I was like, okay, well, now I guess I have to see every single thing that this actress does. And that's how I felt watching you in I Like Movies. I was like blown away. So I want to thank you for that performance, and I'm so excited to be talking to you about it, but I want to talk more about I like movies as well. So I just had to get that out of the way first.
Okay, I am dead. I am blown away by the fact that you could tie me into the same sentence as Jessica Chastain. She's one of my like all time favorites.
Me too.
I went backstage to see her after watching her in The Heiress on Broadway.
Oh wow.
I love her so much. I couldn't. First of all, thank you so much for everything you said. That's so kind. I was sitting. My husband got like he surprised me with tickets. I think it was like the front row, and I was sitting there before the curtain opened, and I couldn't see what was in front of me because I was already crying because I was so emotional about that I was going to get to see her. And then I went backstage, like to the side door. I mean, not backstage, sorry, to the
Yeah.
side door. And she had a swarm of people. She was signing autographs. And when she got to me, I said, like, Jessica, I'm an actor and I'm from Canada and I followed your career. And as soon as I started talking to her, she just put her hands and she zeroed in on me, like physically and with her eyes and everything. And she wanted to hear everything I had to say. And she was surrounded by people talking. She was so lovely. So
That makes me so happy because she
yeah.
seems, I mean, people unfortunately can surprise you where they seem awesome and then you hear horror stories. Every time I've seen her in an interview or heard from anyone that worked with her, it's been nothing but like lovely. She seems like the sweetest person and is so like I love her career trajectory, how it was like just hustling, and then all of a sudden, in I think it was 2010 when when Take Shelter, The Help, what was the other one, Tree of Life, all of these movies came out in 1 year, and it was just like explosive. But yeah, she's just she's amazing. She's a generational talent. But I genuinely had that same feeling watching you
Wow.
and was so blown away. So,
Lovely.
you're definitely worthy of being mentioned with Jessica Chastain.
That's
Um,
so
but yeah, I like movies. How did that come about? And like that playing that character, how, because it seems based on what we've talked about with kind of tying some of our self-worth or value to accomplishments and all of that, it seems like there was probably a lot in that character that hit close to home for you. So did it help you realize or learn anything about yourself being a part of that film?
It did. I love that character so much. Her name is Alana. I love Alana so much. I I I could see where we were similar in that we'd experienced some brutal things. And that's what's similar with all of us human beings is we have all experienced some brutal things um, in varying degrees. And I thought Alana is who I would be if I didn't lean in. Um, and also I feel like her trauma was so acute, and I think mine was very cumulative and
Hmm.
constant. But I just thought like this is a woman who went through something. She couldn't talk to anyone about it because it was at a time in the culture where you didn't talk about sexual trauma, which was what she had in the industry. Um, and not only that, but it was the early 2000s when I think also like therapy was still quite taboo. I feel like she was trying to live her dream, and then she had this happen to her, and then she had no life. She had no other skills. Like she dedicated her whole life to being an actor. She left home when she was, I think it was like 17 or 18 or something. She didn't have any other skills. She didn't have a degree or a diploma or anything. She had to come back and work in a video store. And that's kind of being surrounded in your trauma when she had that, a situation happen to her in Hollywood. If something happens, right, and you don't lean in, is what I said, like, look at it, like, just try, like, start uncovering bit by bit, like maybe you read a book about that kind of thing, or you talk to a therapist, or you like confide in a few friends, or like just start looking at it. One thing leads to another, and eventually you find healing. You just have to be persistent because
Yeah.
the first thing you try may not be the thing, but you have to be persistent. But because of the time and the space and where she was at, she didn't do any of that. I think she really did only tell her parents, and then she came home and like kind of lived with them again for a while and all of that kind of thing. And I think like she was stunted to that age. I think like before that assault happened, I think I imagined like her wardrobe and her closet to be like really colorful and funky and cool and brash, and the way she carried herself to be charismatic and expressive. And then I imagine after that, she needed, if she wasn't getting support and help, what do you do to survive? You need neutrality. That's what I thought she needed, was like grounding and neutrality. No more talking about dreams, because that hurts so bad. If a dream gets dashed and we don't deal with it, it hurts so bad. I've been there. It hurts so bad until you just really deal with it head on. So I think she was emotionally and maturity stunted back to her teen years, but in this position of current leadership with the staff at the video store she worked at. And I think like her closet now is very muted. I made sure that any bit of her work attire that could show personality was void of personality. I made sure her hair was straight and just simple. I made sure her earrings were like tiny little studs. I made sure her watch was simple. Her shoes were like boring black work shoes, like no personality. Whereas Shannon, the other employee at Sequels, the video store,
Yeah.
like, everything was expressive about her. So that's how I relate. And then also gave her space to be so internally unresolved. And that's why she makes these decisions to interact with this young boy, who, like, she probably wants someone to look up to her. She wants that like audience connection she never got. And he kind of is one. And she sees herself in him. All these things I think are competing within her. But because she's not healed from what's happened, I don't think she can deal with things in a really reasonable, fully responsible, and appropriate way. And that
Yeah.
had to be okay. And I had to not decide what that was. I didn't decide what the relationship was. I didn't decide. I just decided to live her reality. And then she would interact in the ways that she could.
Yeah. I love that so much. What was I mean, one thing I love about independent film is the ability to get that involved early on, because a lot of the stuff you're talking about with her wardrobe and, little tiny decisions like that, a lot of the time we don't really have much of a say in. We just show up and, wear what they want us to wear. But how much say or at least dialogue did you have in the conversations about her going into production?
Well, Chandler Levac, who is the filmmaker, the writer director, who is so so talented, just so talented, and she was so lovely with me. And I'll tell you this, which was beautiful that she did this for me. Upon hiring me, after the auditions and the callbacks and the chemistry reads and all that, upon hiring me, we had our first Zoom meeting because I was in LA and she was in Toronto. And our Zoom meeting lasted about 2 hours and mainly consisted of us getting to know each other, yes, but largely her asking me questions as to why on earth Alana ends up doing that, or why did she say that, or why do you think she does it this way? Not in a way to like provoke thought for me, but
Yeah.
she genuinely just like, this came out of her. This script and these people came out of her onto the page, and she gave it to me. And she was curious. And she gave it to me in that way, which I love, which I
Wow.
think like we have to do. I don't know if you relate to this, but like when you get a character or when you get hired for a character, like in the audition, it's sort of like not yours yet, but once it's yours, you need to take ownership and like it's yours more than it's anyone else's, no matter what
Yeah.
they can tell you about it. Yeah. But so in terms of involvement, I think one of the most wonderful contributions I could offer to this already perfect script that we were obsessed with was the monologue scene.
Hmm.
So that monologue scene was actually probably like 5 minutes longer
Wow.
initially. And the area where it was more extensive was in describing the details of what happened in the assault. And in reading the script and in understanding Alana and reading that point in time, I just felt like the point wasn't that she was like, the point wasn't that she was a victim. And the point wasn't in getting sympathy from the audience. The point was just in expressing this horrible thing happened. then there's a pause literally in the editing where I don't say anything and then I change the subject. And that's where all the explicits were initially held. And instead, I just think the audience gets to like insert their own stuff, like
Yeah.
dot, 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 what happened to me kind of thing, instead of it being so explicit. And it also says like, this is not about, it's not about a victim story. This is about someone did something really bad. That person did something really bad. And then this is where I land all these years later. Yeah,
Hmm.
I hate movies. It's not about what exactly happened, how it went down. It's that it happened. And this is what it looks like unresolved all these years later. And I don't even know why I'm saying it. This is how
Yeah.
crazy it is.
That monologue is incredible, but that's such a great decision, I think, to allow people to kind of fill in the blanks there, and I think it makes it so much more effective. Um, I feel like that's a really good segue to my next question. I've read you, I've seen other interviews where you've talked a lot about
Mhm.
being a proud feminist, as am I, and I think that it's something I had to, as a man, and then also from our generation, like growing up in the 90s and 2000s, there was like this negative association around the word feminist, and like there were all these misunderstandings or mischaracterizations of what feminism is. And same with when it comes to like my privilege as a white man, as a straight man, like all of these different things that you have to kind of deconstruct as you mature and get older and learn more about other groups of people and what their experiences are like. I'm curious for you, um, on your journey of that and like becoming passionate about that, was there any like internalized misogyny or mischaracterizations of what feminism is that you had to kind of unlearn as you got older? Especially, you talked about being younger and there being these kind of from your parents, maybe this mindset of like downplaying certain things or being like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Was there some like a moment for you where it became really important, or wherever you saw feminism in general through a different lens?
You hit the nail on the head. I think I think as a younger person, I wasn't even really aware of what feminism was, or I didn't really care what it was or what it meant. I was honestly, I think I was largely in survival mode, like physically, emotionally, you know, I think I think I was engaged in behaviors day to day, moment to moment that were so automatic, like being someone saying something to me and I know I don't even have to think. I know exactly how to laugh it off, pretend I'm dumb, change the subject, or like literally I know I'm in physical danger right now. It's like an animal instinct. That all I know was there were automatic behaviors and allowances that I would like live in as a young person, as like a teenager in my 20s. And I just, it's kind of like boys will be boys, it's kind of like this is the way it is, try not to get hurt. Okay.
Yeah.
And 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 because I was struggling with that eating disorder and just really trying to be in touch with myself and go after my dreams and survive the environment I was in, um, this was not top of mind. And so I don't expect this to be top of mind of anybody who's just trying to get through their life and it maybe feels like it doesn't directly affect them. Like, why do they want to listen to this,
Right.
But what I discovered later, and first thing was in my recovery from my eating disorder, now when I was behaving in these automatic ways, it was clashing up against this like authentic version of me that was like, that felt so wrong. That was not okay that I reacted like that, that I allowed that I am not doing something about that. That was insane. And so I was like, oh my God, this has been happening forever. And what is this even? And then I realized, like, oh, this is feminism. And then I thought, well, what the heck is that? Like, so what is it? Like, got men are bad and women are victims. And then what happens from there? Like, and I was like, that's not it. And so as I uncovered more and more, especially because like so many men in my life are my loves. Like my husband is like the best human. My dad was like such a kooky, wonderful person. One of my best friends is male. Like it's not it's not a math equation like that.
Yeah.
So I realized as I kept exploring this further and further, because like standing up for myself was a new thing. I didn't do that very much as a young person. Standing up for myself meant I had to really understand what I was standing up for and why and what it would look like. And I realized, like, oh, like, okay, so for example, so I have this jewelry brand, and we donate to this one charity called Girls Inc. And they are all about helping young girls grow up to be leaders through mentorship and education and therapy. And if we could donate to a whole other organization, it would be men's mental health. Feminism for me today is 100% tied to men's mental health.
Oh
When
yeah.
something happens for a woman that is horrific, I look to what is almost always a male perpetrator, or something happens to a man that is horrific. I look at the perpetrator and I just think, like, you are so not well, and we are not set up for you to get well, not just in terms of like affordability and like you can buy self-help books, you can do all that, but the mentality of society doesn't help you to look at yourself that way.
Yeah.
So you don't get help. But like that is the crux of feminism, is I think helping men and now young boys get help for their brain. And my husband loves listening to Prof G. Do you ever listen to Prof G?
No.
Oh, you might like Prof G. Let
Okay.
me know. Yeah.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, write it down. He is a huge advocate for feminism and also for men's mental health. And I think he ties it together in a different way that is from a male's perspective.
Mm.
Um, but that was the change for me, was in getting better and realizing my automatic reactions were not okay. What the heck is this? Oh my God, there's like this segregation. And then really realizing, like, we, like, guys need caretaking. Like, guys need care.
Yeah. Well, I think I think we've talked about Liz Plank in our messages, but I had her on like, what was it? Episode before last was one I released with Liz, and we talked all about that because she has her book For the Love of Men, and
Yes.
reframed the feminist movement from like in that way where it's also about helping um, raise men in a different way and to view women in a different way and treat women in a different way in order to fix any of it. And that men are just as much a victim of the patriarchy, and they don't even realize it. And I think
Yeah.
that for me, I really relate to these kind of just automatic survival responses that we have with my disability, like being bullied. For years, even now, I find myself when I'm around people I don't feel super safe around, whether it's like family members, coworkers, like strangers, whatever. If someone makes a joke or a comment about like one of the most, it's really wild the stuff that people in their brain think is okay to say to someone. But um, I I have had this a lot where people come up to me and say something along the lines of, because on the show, it's a show about Jesus and the apostles and healings and all of this stuff. And my character has the same disability as me. So I have people come up and say things like, oh, look, you're not crippled anymore, because they don't see me limping as much in person as they see me limping on the show. And will say things like that. And I still find myself at times fawning and like, or laughing, or, for the longest time, I would make fun of myself all the time because it's like, I got to beat them to the punch. And once I kind of realized, and I also, in the same way, like, until you kind of really start looking into everything, you may have a certain idea of what feminism is, and then the lenses, your eyes are kind of open to it. For me, I had that with like the disabled community. I did not want to call myself a disabled actor or a differently abled actor or any of that, because I was like, no, I'm not. I'm quote unquote normal. Like what other people were expecting of me. It's like I needed to be that. And then once I was able to embrace that part of me, my true self, and be like, no, I'm proud to be in this community. I have this like obligation to this community. I love this community, and that now I'm much more outspoken about it. And in the moments, I find myself wanting to revert, or I feel that pull towards like, oh, make a joke about yourself to like ease the tension, I remind myself like, would I make a joke about someone else with a disability? No. So then it helps me not make that about myself too.
Yeah.
But it's a process, but I think that's so cool what you're doing, and with your jewelry company too, donating those
Thank you.
funds.
I love that you brought it back to because like the way that you brought it back to your own experience just proves that it's not about even like the men versus women thing. It's applicable to just everybody. We all have these automatic responses to things because that's how sort of society is rolling along,
Yeah.
and we know how to meet the requirements of what's expected culturally and socially. But I think when you're doing work like what you're doing and what I'm doing, which is just like peeling away one layer at a time. Oh, look, there's therapy. Oh, look, there's EMDR. Oh, look, there's this podcast. Oh, look, it's just like, oh, um, the automatic response. There's like maybe this is probably part of meditation or something, but like, there's like the conscious mind and there's the observer. It's like
Yeah.
the observer is like, no, like that's not right for me anymore. And that's not okay. And my God, it's really hard to break that habit. And it's totally a habit and easy to get pulled back in. I agree. I think like, yeah, I think it's tough being a person, a human. I think even just relating back to like that initial story about you learning to basically trust your instrument and cry on
Hmm.
set, but that there's we're not machines. And there's some days on set where you cannot cry. In that monologue scene, in my mind, I was sobbing. In my mind, when I read the script, and I was. When it came to the day, that wasn't where she was at,
Yeah.
and I remember I left that day because I just loved this character and this script so much, Jordan. I just loved it so deeply. I left set that day, especially it's an indie, you have like one take, okay?
Yeah.
And you have no time to rehearse. It was just like, here's your space. Like go. And Chandler let me go with that space because she trusted me. She knows exactly what she wants. Don't let me kid you, but in that particular scene, just let me go. And I remember I left set that day feeling mortified. I felt like I ruined this beautiful piece of art she had given me, because it because God, this is kind of all over the place, but like I don't know if you relate to this, but there's me when I'm in the art, in the creativity, and
Hmm.
it's void of ego. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'll look the fool because
Yeah.
I'm representing this person, this creativity. Once I step outside of that, and now I'm driving home, Romina the ego kicks in, and she's
Yes.
like, "What did you let yourself do? What were you thinking?" Or watching myself back, being like, did you not think you should have taken a double look and asked for like that eyeliner to be a little thin? Like the ego steps in. There's the
Yeah.
artist and the ego. And I think that kind of does relate to what you were talking about of like, there's this watcher that's like, is it ego? Is it the true self? Um, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I making any
No,
sense?
no, 100%. I had a scene in season 4 of our show. There's this episode where it was really exciting. So going into that season, I went to the writers and was like, "Hey, we've already done this scene where we know my character's not going to be healed, which I think is awesome, but I didn't want that to be the end of his story." So I was like, "How do we keep it going?" And I had this idea that maybe his condition is worsening. So not only is he not going to be healed and watch all of these other people get healed, but he's getting worse. He's in more pain. And they took that idea and they use it. So it was really exciting. And I had this big scene at the end of the episode where I'm like, all the apostles are like arguing with each other. And then I kind of double over in pain that I've been kind of hiding from everyone. And it's the big emotional climax of the episode. And I pictured it a certain way for so long. And then we got on set and we did the rehearsal, and it was, I was feeling really emotional in the rehearsal, and it was like the tears were coming and everything. And then the director, Dallas, came over to my trailer afterwards and was like, "Hey, like great job in the rehearsal. I like this is kind of what I was thinking for the direction of like the emotion in the scene, and it just wasn't what I had pictured. So I immediately thought I did something wrong and was feeling embarrassed. And then when we shot the actual scene, I was able to kind of let it go. Like at first I was a little insecure, but I was like, whatever, I'm gonna, do what he asked. We did it. I felt fine. And then on the drive home, I just like broke down because I was like, I lost it. I was in my own head. It wasn't like I was picturing it was going to be. And that was like my big scene of the season. So, I wasted that opportunity and I did a disservice to the writing and all this stuff. But it
Yeah,
turned out, better than I would have thought. And
exactly.
just like I'm sure like, when you
Yeah.
watch that scene now, are you proud of it now whenever you watch
Oh,
it?
well, we premiered at TIFF in 20 anyway, we premiered at TIFF, and I think we had 3 screenings and we were at all of them, and I was kind of like semi dissociated from being a relaxed audience member. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th screening that I was like, "Oh my god, it's a movie. Oh, it's a really good movie."
Yeah.
But it took me a couple tries to get there. But now I don't think that at all. No, and I
Yeah.
think that it was the way it was supposed to be because I let her be a person, and it was her. It wasn't my idea, my ego idea of what she should do,
Yeah.
and right, and I think like I don't know if I haven't taken the Enneagram test, but I think I'm a 3 as well because like you're my people. Like anyone who says they're a 3, I'm always like, oh, but I relate so hard to you.
Yeah.
So like I think for maybe people like us, it's also I am easily one to put a sense of pressure on myself, and I don't know if it's perfectionism. I guess it is, but I've heard that perfectionism is also perfectionism stops you from taking the action, and I always take the action anyway,
Yeah.
even though I'm scared to death. I
Same.
still, yeah. So maybe it is like sprinkled with perfectionism, but it's like what we're talking about in these scenes that feel so specific. I just resonate to in my life, which is like you do your best and just do it. 80% of what you think is like ideal is going to be more than enough.
Yeah.
Like that 20% to hold out on anything, whether it's in our creativity, in life, in a pursuit, to hold off until that 20% is there is so it's elusive. It's not even reality. Like I just think you got to go, this is 80%, which is like my 100%, and it's going to be just fine. And then you
Yeah.
put it out there, and then it's not up to me anymore. It's not my
Yeah.
responsibility how someone else receives it,
Right.
right?
Yeah. I think I think Robert De Niro said in an interview that like there's days you're going to go up on set and your dog just died or you're pissed off at someone or whatever, things that are totally out of your control, but you can't help but like that's with you on some level, even if it's a subconscious thing, it's there. And he was like, so it's not always going to go exactly as you pictured. And you have
Yeah,
to be okay with that. You have to be okay with like rolling with the punches and being like, okay, you know what? I'm going to use whatever this is. And I'm just going to, you have to be flexible in those moments and,
yeah,
not be so like, if there's been times too, especially it's hard as an actor if you get one of those things where you are a co-star and have like 2 lines in
hmm,
something and you're working with like this actor that you admire or whatever, and then want to do everything you can in these 2 lines, and then it
hmm,
doesn't go as planned or like whatever, to not beat yourself up. But it's like just to be able to go in like prepared, but also flexible and free enough to kind of let whatever magic is there, like let it happen. But yeah, I need to. I think I may watch I Like Movies again tonight after talking about it
oh,
because this is
oh,
it'll be exciting to watch it all through this new lens. But I want to go back a little bit real quick before I get to the final question. You talked. It's going back a little bit too. But you
mhm,
when you mentioned these automatic responses as a woman that like you can like laugh or act stupid or the animal instinct. Have you ever listened to Radio Rental, Rain Wilson's podcast?
no,
It's
writing it
really
down.
it's all spooky, like true stories. And
Okay.
it's people that like some of them are kind of like paranormal or like, you know, sometimes it's like an interaction where with like a serial killer or whatever, like people telling stories where they survived some scary situation. And some of them are silly and then some of them are really harrowing. But there's one that I just wanted to like mention this because it made me think about it. This woman was telling a story, and it's like a perfect example of like this animal instinct that women have when there's danger or a predator nearby. And she said she was a mom and a stay-at-home mom, and she told her husband one day, like, "Hey, you're on kid duty tonight. I need to just go to the bar and be an adult and like have a couple drinks and just be by myself away from the kids for one night." So he was like, "Okay." So she went out, and almost immediately she said this guy came up and was like, "Hey, can you get a picture of me and this other person really quick?" And she was like, "Sure." So she took a picture, and it was a picture of some other woman that had like a shirt that matched his, so he wanted a picture of it. It was like a weird request. He didn't even know this other woman, so she took the picture, and he was like, "Hey, thanks for taking that picture. Let me buy you a drink to like pay you back." And she was like, "No, it's fine." And he kept kind of pushing, so she was like, "Oh, I'll just have a water." So he's like, "Okay, I'll be right back." And he went and came back with a water, and she said it looked kind of discolored, and
Oh,
that she had noticed it was in a different glass from like it was like a whiskey glass. It wasn't like one of the regular water glasses that they give. Like it just
oh,
seemed there's something weird about it. So she was like, "Okay, thanks," and then immediately went to the bathroom and poured it out, and was like, "I'm just going to leave because I don't want to have to deal with this creepy guy that is hovering around." So she went to the bathroom for a bit, walked out, and got like didn't see him when she walked out. She walked outside, and as soon as she walked out, she said she audibly heard a voice that said, and she said it was like her own voice, that said, "You're in danger. Keep walking." And she was like, it felt like she could hear it like behind her, this her own voice. And so she kept walking, and she started to look over her shoulder, and the voice said, "Do not look over your shoulder. Stay calm. Keep walking." And it's at night. She's walking outside through this parking lot, and she had to park a ways off. So she walked through this parking lot, and then she has to cross a street and then cross through an alley to get to where her car is. So as she's going and starts to like, she keeps getting closer to where this alley is, and as she's walking up to it, the voice says, "You're like, this is your chance now. Don't try to like pretend that everything's okay. Run." So as soon as she hit alley, she took off running and got to her car. And as soon as she got inside and closed the door, the guy pulled up in a truck and tried to open her door, punched the window, and then got off and drove off.
oh my God.
And she talked about in this, like she told the story way better, obviously,
Pretty
but
great.
it was horrifying to hear. But it was the most like visceral like example I've heard of like that kind of, because she said she's talked to people and they're like, "Oh, that was a guardian angel or whatever," and she's like, "I don't know." She was like, "I don't think that's what it was. I really think it was just this subconscious like instinct that, you know," because she was like, "I don't think there was someone looking out for me that's not looking after the other women that haven't been as lucky as me."
Right.
But she was like, "I think it's just this thing that like, you know, your each individual person has their own instincts or the way that like it manifests itself to warn you or to, you know, get you out of trouble, like that fight flight or fawn thing." And yeah, it's a great podcast. I highly
Wow.
recommend it.
Wow.
um
That was
but
unbelievable.
sorry for going off on a little rabbit trail. I just
No,
it was really
no,
really powerful.
that was powerful. I think we develop subconscious instincts through experience gathered for years
Yeah,
and years and years. Kind of like you were saying, like when you feel unsafe, you fawn.
yeah.
Yeah, like I understand that. Yeah, I either fawn or I fight. I rarely flee.
Hmm.
Yeah, but we have these automatic responses, and that's such a crazy story.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, and the whole fawn thing too. There's like I've had, especially in high school, there'd be moments where someone would, you know, say something, you know, really misogynistic or make like a racist joke or stupid teenage things that like kids will say. And in hindsight, I'm like, man, why didn't I say something? Why didn't I like, fight back or stand up for this person? But I was so scared, and I like to just blend in and be neutral, and to
Yeah.
not, um, set off any alarms or to draw attention to yourself, because then you're in danger again. And it's
Yeah.
such as I've been able to kind of broaden not only my understanding of myself but of the world, and also becoming a father. I've found myself being more and more outspoken about things,
Yeah.
and the fight is coming out, I think, with age more.
Yeah.
But the fun is still there. It still creeps in from time to time. But
Yeah. I
um, yeah,
I think as a kid, as a kid or a young person, like even in my 20s, the fawn was the safest thing. It's like to get an alliance out of the perpetrator, right?
yeah,
If you can make them like you or see you as not as a threat, their
yeah,
safety, of course.
yeah,
You know, yeah. I think yeah. There was this one experience I had. It was one of my first trips out to LA, and I wasn't working, and I was trying to save up. I had been on some shows in Canada, and I was just trying to make sure I saved up whatever I had so far. I wasn't sure when I was going to work, and so as is the life of an actor, but I didn't know how bad the LA like metro system was. I come from Toronto where it's like amazing. So I was like, I'll just try taking the bus on this trip, like public transit to get
yeah.
around. Not the greatest. But I was on a bus one night and I was sitting next to a window and a man sat next to me. He, by all accounts, seemed just fine and normal, but he started asking me questions about my ethnicity, right? He was trying to guess my ethnicity. And he's like, "Are you Greek?" And I was like, "No." And I would just politely say no, and then look out the window, like take a hint. And then he'd say, "Oh, are you Egyptian? Are you Spanish?" And I was like, "No, no." And then he's like, "You're so beautiful. What are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I actually would just rather sit here and not talk." Like I just tried to be polite and say something like I just
Yeah.
rather not have this conversation, and I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, and then he started berating me. He just went off. He was like, "You stupid little girl. I'm going to teach you a lesson. You'll
Oh
never
my
forget this, you
God.
stupid little girl." He's probably in his like, I don't know, maybe 40s or 50s or something. He was older than me. I was in my 20s at the time, um and
That's terrifying.
it got worse and worse. And so I pressed the stop button and I stood up to get off. But it was such a tight corner that if he wouldn't move to let me out. And I said, "Please move, please let me out." And if I did push myself out, I would rub my body up against his. And so I remember being like, I can't get out of here. And he won't let me out. I started screaming for help. "Someone please help me. Please help me. He won't let me out." And he was still berating me.
Wow.
And the adults on the bus were like catatonic. They like no one like they had their own neutrality. Like they did not want to, and this is normal. This is I think pretty
Yeah.
normal. It's like onlookers don't want to get involved. I think that's why they always say like if there is like a sexual assault or a rape, you call fire because it means everybody kind of needs to look out.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then I was calling to the bus driver. One guy said, "Come on, dude, let her out." That was it. Eventually, I have a bit of a blackout there actually as to how I got out, but I did. Maybe I need some EMDR for that. But I did get out and I was fine. And I ran off the bus and I called 911. And then they said they would check their cameras and stuff. And it was a female officer. And she was like, "I'm so sorry you went through that. And I don't think there's going to be any recourse. You just need to get home safely. This happens, and this and worse." She basically said, like, "This and worse happens all the time. And it's horrible, and I'm so sorry, but I don't know that there's anything we're gonna be able to do. We'll look at we'll try and see if there's, like, videos on the bus, but, um, I'm just really sorry." And I just was like, "What in God's name?" Like, what? Was a bus, it was public transit. It was
Yeah.
screaming for help.
That is terrifying, and I'm so sorry that happened to you as well, but it's terrifying. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine being in that situation. I'm so sorry that happened.
Well, thank you, but yeah, it's just kind of one small example of the multitudes that we kind of shift through, and some of them are smaller too. Like you know how to hold your keys a certain way, and you
Yeah,
read people. Like you have a sixth sense about people, and I do too, and we all sort of do. But um, I think I think just to go back is just I just think that young guys especially, just need like really strong male role models, and I think that only that just looks like I honestly, and I know you don't love this, but like honestly, people like you who are taking it up to a public platform, and sharing so unapologetically and authentically and kindly towards yourself, like I think whenever my husband reaches out to a male buddy who's going through a hard time and like suggests like, hey buddy, like I think you should, have you ever tried therapy, like some guys are in that mindset of like still of like that's not macho or whatever,
yeah,
doing those kind, like being that kind of leader as a man for other men, um I think is more profound than women telling men,
sure.
this is harmful, this is why, like, you're this is, and we must, but I really think the biggest impact will come from other men.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that there's because for better or worse, men in general, like in our society, often don't take what women say seriously, and don't, regardless of how much value it holds, and because it's like it's happening to you, so you should be able to be the one to express that to men and have them, um, you know, change their behavior moving forward. But unfortunately, that's not how it works a lot of the time. Um, but yeah, that reminds me too of another. I think teaching young boys, like at a really young age, to have, and that it's okay and good, and healthy to have strong female role models too. I saw there was some quote somewhere, or I read something about how there was like a poll, and they asked a bunch of men, um, to name 5 female role models that they aren't related to, and most of them couldn't name 2 or 3, and it's because, and then like on the flip side, little girls, like if a little girl wants to be Spider-Man or something for Halloween, most people aren't going to think twice, but if a little boy wants to be, Gwen Stacy's like Spider Woman or something, then it's like, nope, that's a girl costume. Where it's like
Yeah.
there's this weird, like, you're not supposed to look up to women. They are like, women are beneath, like, where it's like if
Yeah.
you, and the whole like, oh, you're acting like a girl, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's so many little things that I think if we shift the way we just talk about women and girls and femininity and masculinity and all of that, at a really early age, I think that's why I'm so glad I have 3 kids, and it's 2 girls and a boy, and I'm so glad our boy is the youngest one, because he gets to grow up with 2 big sisters, and I think that's the
Oh,
thing that
yeah.
makes me most hopeful about that, because he gets to have 2 awesome female role models to grow up with, and
I love
his mother
that.
too. So
Yes, I love that. And if you think about that guy on the bus story, like what if what if because that gentleman is not in the self-help, is not in the community help, is
right,
not in the therapy help. What if that guy was in a society where like men's mental health was valued and upheld, and it was okay for him to like see someone to help guide him, and like wouldn't his quality of life be so much better than to harass this young woman on a bus?
yeah,
Wouldn't his quality of life just be like so much better? Maybe he would have a great relationship, maybe he would like his job, I don't know, but
yeah,
he'd make better decisions in his life. So like I think it's easy to hear a story like that, or any story, and be like, yeah, but that guy was a jerk, I'm not a jerk, or like, but that
yeah,
guy is obviously not well, I'm fine. But it's the point is that when we allow for that like seeking of support,
hmm,
you don't even say help, it's support, and we all need support, you're a person. You allow that support to be present, that person's life gets enriched, and then they don't spill over into violence or whatever onto everybody else, other men, other women, whatever. And
yeah,
there are obviously women perpetrators as well. I'm not saying there aren't, because there are,
sure.
but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. I just realized what time. I don't want to take up too much more of your
Oh,
time.
geez.
But
Wow, that flew by.
I know it really did. I want to ask though, since you've been so gracious and vulnerable and shared so many, really powerful things. I always end the podcast with, and then I'll give you an opportunity to plug any of your projects. But I always end the podcast with this question, which is, what is the thing that you love most about yourself?
Ah, I like that. The thing I like most about myself, and I think that I appreciate the most about myself, is my sense of resilience and determination. Because I think I know I'm a supremely sensitive person, which I now love about
Yeah,
myself. And having this sense of drive or resilience um, helps me take whatever hits me in the gut or hits me in the heart and not say, well, that's that then. That sucked. I'm always going to carry that thorn, but instead helps me to go, wow, that hurts so bad. That sucked so bad. Okay. Like, okay, steps forward. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are the steps forward? How do we mend? Or like, okay, how do I like embrace this and incorporate this into myself so I can be better, a better version of myself? Like, it makes my personal growth exciting and worthwhile. I really value that part of me, and I'm not sure if it's attached to my stubbornness. There's like whatever like your whatever like they say whatever your detriment attributes are, there's always an attribute to that. And
hmm
it's like if it's your obstacle, it's actually your asset. I think that's in your intro, right? And
yeah. I
thank
mean,
you.
something along those. Yeah, like your perceived weaknesses can, you can turn those into your greatest strength. And yeah,
Yeah. And that's why like I feel like I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm not ashamed that I had an addiction to get through. I'm not ashamed of all the things. Like I now go like, wow, those were immensely helpful. The dark parts of me are my favorite. It helps me relate to other people who embrace that part of them. And
yeah,
you usually have a wicked sense of humor
yeah.
when you're that way. You know what I mean? Like um so yeah, I think that would be my answer.
Yeah, I love that, and I said it. I'm trying to get to that place too of like I've I've been told that I'm resilient as well,
Yes.
and I guess on like an objective level, like I've been through a lot and I've come out the other side, and I'm proud of that. But I have a hard time being like like admitting or acknowledging that it might be an inherent quality in me and not just a circumstantial thing that like maybe I am just a resilient person. Maybe it's not just maybe I would have been whether or not I was in the hospital a lot. Maybe I just have that in me. And so I'll try to take that out of your book too because it's hard for me to admit or acknowledge. That's why I love asking that question is like what do you love about
Yeah.
yourself because
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing to like say really. We could go on all day about our
Totally.
insecurities.
Yeah, well, what a gift either way. Like whatever you come to, whatever you discover for yourself, like I just think about you and I think about what you just shared and I just think, well, how beautiful either way. Whatever he discovers, like if it was inherent, what a gift. Like what a present
Yeah.
to receive in a lifetime. And if it was something earned, wow, like trophy, like trophy, like either
Yeah.
way, it's going to be great.
Well, thank you so much. I want to hear before I let you go, what other films and projects do you have coming up, and where can people find you?
Okay, so right now I have a feature film called Portal to Hell, and it is, I'm going to say, a horror comedy or a very dark comedy, and that's playing at Slam Dance. And you can actually watch that if you're in LA and you want to get tickets. Tickets are now on sale. I have that info on my Instagram, which is at Romina D'Ugo, just my full name. So that's I'm really excited about that feature. I think it kind of well, there's three features that are coming out. There's Portal to Hell, there's Buy, which is another dark comedy, which is very close to my heart with a special collaborator, friend, and brilliant filmmaker of mine named Charles Steven. And that's her film, and that's going to be circulating soon as well. and a third feature called Sacred Creatures, which was created by Chris Sanchez, which is another dark, provocative, humorous film. And I don't think it's a surprise that I kind of gravitate towards those now. But but I have info on all of those on my Instagram at Romina D'Ugo. And again, if you're in LA, get tickets to Portal to Hell. It's really funny. And it's actually created by a male filmmaker. It's his first feature film. He's extraordinarily talented, Woody Bess. He's on the blacklist for, I think, one or two other scripts as well. But this is his first film, and he was the DOP on this as well. He's like so supremely talented. But this is all, this is a story about, honestly, vulnerability and soul searching as underlying themes through a man's lens, a heterosexual male. The two lead producers are also male. I'm one of the female producers on board, but largely it's their film, and I think like it comes with this like brand of humor that is relatable to other men.
Yeah.
Primo saying hi.
Hello.
But yeah, it's I think it's like fed with a spoon of not sugar, but like kind of like a bro's handshake, you know?
Yeah.
But it's really smart, and it's really funny, and it's really sensitive, and it's really relatable, even though it is about what it sounds like, which is a portal to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Woody Bess. Those are the films that are out coming out right now.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see them because I mean it. Like Jessica Chastain, I'm going to watch everything you do. And I hope that we get to do something together too one day. I'm starting to dip my toe in producing and writing. We'll find something one way or another.
Let's talk.
I would love that. Yes,
let's
please.
talk, because I'm on a similar path. I'm also moving towards producing and what it's like to collaborate from that side of things as well. And I find it really exciting and really creative, actually.
Yeah, it's really fun, and especially like, you know, it feels empowering being able to take control a little bit of this, you know, instead of just waiting around for like projects to come along that we are excited by, kind of seeking them, you know, like making them happen on our own is a really cool feeling. You get back to your day. But
thanks, Jordan.
Let's
Thank you so much.
let's talk soon and see what we can do.
I would love that.
Awesome. We'll stay in touch.
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.